Nadie dijo.
What's up, friends, caring friends? Welcome to Dialogue of the Afternoon. This wonderful day, a Friday, well, with a lot of encouragement, with positivity, and of course we start with one by one on this day. Wendy Kinde greets you, and on this occasion I have the pleasure of greeting and welcoming the renowned ufologist in our country and also internationally, Mr. Jamie Rodriguez. How are you, Jamie? Welcome, thanks for being with us here in the Imanus 99 booth and being able to join us in this interesting interview to learn a little more about you.
Very well, thank you, man. What a warm hug to all those restless spirits tuning in to N99 right now, huh? And thanks for the space, because unfortunately this topic is not talked about much. It still maintains humanity's way of thinking divided, but only due to lack of information, nothing more.
So that's why I thank you for the space.
Jamie, we are going to talk a little about your beginnings, or why you became interested in this subject of UFOs, of things, I don't know whether to call them paranormal, but that they exist, that are on our planet. Many people refuse to accept that life suddenly exists on another planet, or that there are other types of beings, perhaps similar to us or not, they don't know, really. People who may not have been able to have this type of experience, they refuse to believe it. Others assert that there are. How did you get interested in this, and what was your first experience?
Well, actually I didn't come to UFOs anymore as a spur-of-the-moment decision.
Okay.
Let's say that one leads to the other, right? In fact, I was very interested. It was in answers for my life, not for the lives of others. I want to clarify that because all the puzzle that I have put together is to understand life, Jamie Rodriguez, and in fact what I do in all these conferences and all the noise that I make is only sharing my research work, that is all. When I was 9 years old, in fact I have been a restless spirit all my life. I have always wanted to know why. I arrive in a town. I want to know why the town is called that. I want to know its name. I want to know many things. Always I wanted to know. And when I was 9 years old, many questions began in my mind and I wanted the answers, but unfortunately I come from a generation where you couldn't ask much. 60 years ago, what your parents told you was that.
That was.
I mean, one couldn't refute, not Dad, but this was nothing.
Nothing, he couldn't refute.
What the father said, that was it.
Clear.
My grandmother, who was too Catholic, who even built all the altars that are in San Blas, there in Cuenca, took me, but very often, to church. She was Catholic, but hey, then it was customary in Cuenca to have an open Bible on a pedestal at the entrance to the house.
And
many people still maintain that custom. This was a kind of ritual to identify oneself, and I imagine that all these people thought that this was already a connection with God and blah, 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 having the book open. So, one day sitting in my house, I saw that there was a vulcanizer in front, on the balcony of my house. I saw how some children were mistreated by their father. Sometimes they had to eat, other times not to eat, they played in the mud, all that. While my cousin was born with excessive care in Quito, Grandma went to Miami to bring her clothes.
Differences.
So I wanted an explanation. I told my grandmother, Kay, because she told me, this is the house of God. God can everything. God does it all. God says it all.
So I asked him, and how does God do then to put these children in those life circumstances and my cousin in these others?
I mean, what makes the difference?
You compared.
So she told me, well, now that we're going to the priest Sarmiento, you're going to ask him. She said, where the little Father Sarmiento? Then we would arrive. I would ask him the question, and the priest, the same. What he was saying to me is, my son, God's designs are a mystery. And it didn't go from there.
Already?
Then, later I got more confused because I started to read this book that was there at the entrance because it was supposedly the Word of God.
Uh-huh.
So, at the beginning comes this story that the Spanish brought us here, which is the story of the people of Israel, which said that they are in paradise. Cain kills Abel, they expel him from paradise.
According to what history tells us.
pues no.
Sure. I'm talking about history, not religion.
Okay.
Then, they expel Cain from paradise, and Arnblom then says, and Cain went to the land of Nod, and procreated, and had his family, and everything.
So I said, how is this?
I mean, it's not that they were the first, the first. What was the land of Nodre then? And Pac fired a trigger at me, so that's when I started, let's see, so I don't think this is a. Well, And that's when I began to be interested in races. At that time it was very difficult to find blacks in Cuenca. But a black chap appeared there and then another black appeared and all that. So then I asked my grandmother. We went back to the same mess. Not true. And then well, it started and nobody had answers for me, so I started looking for answers at 10, 11 years old, but that year I was about to turn 10 years old. Diagonal to my house lived the Patino Ledesma family, the priest Gennaro Patino who gave mass on Telerama. I don't know if you can find him. This priest was a good friend of my grandmother and there were 17 brothers, so with 4 of them we went one day to the lagoons of Cajas de Paseo. But the walks before it was not now one arrives by car in quarter of an hour to Cajas from Cuenca. One had to go to Puente del Vado at 5 in the morning, park there. A milk truck would come that would take the milk pipes to Sayasi and even we would arrive there and from there we would go to the Cajas lagoons. We would arrive at 12 noon walking and their Don Guevarita was waiting for us and he gave us a drink and the whole thing and he lent us the keys to the shelter. The refuge was in the first lagoon, which is La Cataquina, which is where they now go with the car at the first roadblock to the park in the boxes. So, we got there with the key to the refuge and we stopped on the hill before going down to the refuge where you can see the entire lagoon and there was a large metallic bob parked there on the Cataquina.
On, with lights.
No. It was 12 noon.
It was a metallic bob.
Already.
Make it count, a large metallic lentil.
There was.
And there was a little, but minimal, almost imperceptible wavelets there in the water, but it was on the water.
Over the water.
Already.
So,
A device never seen before.
of course, so I tell Gennaro, Gennaro, what is that?
What is that thing?
Then he tells me, those are, he says, some machines that the Japanese bring from the Shosha mines to search for gold. Well, for that answer one already accepted, right?
Basta, ¿no?
Claro.
¿Ya?
Well, from there we continued walking. We went to the other lagoon, to the Tariadora, blah, blah, blah. The matter passed. The day ended at 5 in the afternoon. We were already at the refuge and we began to play cards. We began to play a game called Dirty Ass and it was the one who got the pick of black.
Well known, pretty.
So they were like that with the cards, passing us around, and there were 5 of us playing there. And then when the pick of black came out, one had to leave a garment, right? So a leash, a key, the chopa, anything. And when one was going to remove the garment, he had to do some grace to remove the garment.
The penance.
So they gave me, one sang, recited at that time, we recited and they gave us recitation classes and everything. And they tell me, no, you go and bring water from the lagoon because we are going to make the rice for the snack. Because one could not return the same day, we always returned the next day.
And how far away was it to go and return?
About 10, 15 meters, very close, right there. Well, then I take the pot. Of course we used to make rice or a puto there at the campfire, it came out, but that was part of the tour, right?
It was the risotto back then.
A can of tuna and that was our snack and we were happy, right? It was other times, really, there I can say other times, a more innocent concept of life, a completely different concept of life, uncomplicated, so when I go to see the water I see the same thing that was first in the center of the lagoon. It was on the other side of the lagoon, parked, let's say, facing the shelter but on the other side of the lagoon. Well, what I could see, I don't know if it was my perception, like a kind of 2 silhouettes entering this. Well, so I drop the pot and I run to the shelter and I tell my friends, I tell them come see the Japanese, and they all run out, we come and ran away. This thing was already like a neon spotlight ahead and was beginning to rise. In less than 2 seconds it was over the lagoon again and
Like levitation.
and we were all like that, without speaking, without anything, okay?
It didn't have any noise.
Nothing, absolutely nothing. And there I didn't have the colors around me or anything. And in that time it turns tomato color and makes a mushroom in the air and is lost.
But without making the slightest noise.
And what is strange about this is that after seeing that show, nobody said anything. Nobody spoke to each other. Nobody said anything to us and I think that half an hour passed. An hour, we were making the rice and then I think that someone reacted and something was said, but that was there. Okay, so that was the first experience that I had with an unidentified flying object and logically, being there with all these indoctrinated as I said.